welcome back to another season of Public Opinion with your host, Pam and Vanetta. Hi, Vanetta.
Hi.
Oh my goodness, it seems like it's been so long since we've had a show.
It has summer
It,
hiatus.
yeah, we had. I've had a wonderful summer, and I know you've had a pretty good summer as well.
I had a terrible summer. I was sick most of the summer. I
we
don't know
don't
why
want
you
to.
said that.
We don't want to start on such a negative note.
But
Okay,
it's the truth.
Well, I'm very thankful and grateful to see you again, Vanetta. You survived this summer.
I
You had
did.
some illnesses, but you know, God is good and He is the ultimate
All the
healer. So
time.
I know that He's going to continue to heal you. But you did have an opportunity to do a few things, though, even in the midst
Yes.
of your illness.
Yes, I
So
did.
that's a good thing.
This was the season for weddings.
Yes. And how many weddings did you go to?
5.
I didn't realize you had gone to 5. See, I think a lot of people, you know, now they're getting back out. Some weddings have been put on hold. I think
Right.
this year a lot of people got their weddings in that may have been put on hold as well. So
Right. I think it's and some COVID love. Don't forget some COVID love.
yeah. But so many people I talked to said that they went to several weddings. So
I got one more to go.
I went
I
to 2.
have 6.
Oh, that's a lot of weddings. That's a lot of weddings. And with the end of summer and the beginning of the school year comes, you know, actual talk of what to do with your children, what you should do, what's important to do when school starts. I know when our children were in school, my husband and I always used to, first order of business, we had to go to open house. It seemed like they would have an open house like within a few days almost of the time that school started.
Yeah. A few minutes. The kid just met the teacher and now you meeting them.
Right. But you know what, now that I look back, it is important because you know you get to know your children's teachers and all of that.
It's important that the teacher know you. Now,
right.
I really think that's valuable, that they see your face, that they know you're active, and that they don't make any judgments based on your child only.
Exactly. So this week, we're going to be talking about the importance of advocating for your children in school. And we have 2 guests who are going to be joining us to talk about that. So we are going to get started and meet our guests for this week. First, we have Lynn Milliner, MD. Lynn is a physician partner for patient relations for MetroHealth. She is looking forward to working as one of the newly appointed associate directors for the Office of Professional Affairs. In June 2021, she was elected board chair for Applewood Centers after serving on the board of directors and executive committee for several years. Next, we have Kathi Howard-Primes. Kathi is the founder and chief executive officer of Momentuum LLC and author of the newly released children's book, Walking in Ava's Shoes. Kathi holds a bachelor's degree in business administration from Ohio University and a master's degree in education from Cleveland State University. Momentuum LLC was founded in 2006 in response to a critical need for expert tutoring to assist students in attaining their highest academic potential. Momentuum has worked with students in school districts throughout the state of Ohio. So let's welcome our guests. Well, welcome, and thank you both so very much for agreeing to be participants on this show. I'm so happy to have you.
Thank you for inviting us.
We are happy to be here.
Yeah, and I'm excited to hear what you all have to say about the public opinion question of the week. So we're going to get started and see what that public opinion question is. Why is it important for parents to properly advocate for their children's educational needs? All right, so Dr. Lynn, I'm going to let you answer that question first, and you're going to have 2 minutes, so go ahead.
Great. Thank you so much for the invitation. So what we want you to do is get information, get educated, get and find out what services your child may need, and write everything down and be organized. We want you to be champions and cheerleaders. Not everybody has the perfect childhood or the perfect educational experience. We want kids to like school, not fear school or dread school. and we've come a long way with providing accommodations and support services. So if somebody says something's not right, we'll get more information and find out what's not right, find out how you can help your child succeed, make teachers, your friends, your confidants, your child's healthcare providers, people you trust, ask a lot of questions, get information. This is one time where we might say it might be okay to go on the internet, but ask, be proactive, be vocal, ask a lot of questions, and get the information you need to help your child succeed.
All right. Thank you so very much. And now, Kathi, go ahead.
Oh, wow. So this is, first I want to say thank you to Pam and Vanetta for inviting me to participate on your podcast. I'm honored to be here. I love talking about advocating for kids. It's a passion that I have. And so the first thing I would say is we all want our students to succeed, right? We want them to succeed in school. So the first step I would say in advocating for your child, it starts at home. Okay, and making sure that your child has all the tools that he or she needs to succeed. So what do I mean by that? Just let's keep it simple. First, just making sure that you just understand how your child learns, by observing your child. If your child might be a little hyper or not, if your child is introverted. You've been around your child, since day one, right? So I always just remind the parents to just kind of, get to know your child, right? And how best they learn and their learning style. Then I always say, get the information, get to know your child's teacher. Because if you have a relationship with the teacher in the school, then you know that they are going to advocate and support your children. I have had to advocate for both of my kids, and I guess we'll get into that later. They had different needs. One is gifted, one ADHD, but I still had to advocate for both of them. And then going back to the home, making sure that they just have like a place to learn, right? Even it doesn't have to be anything elaborate. That's why I always tell parents, hey, a little TV tray and a chair, right? I think, that works. And then also too, don't be ashamed if your child needs additional support and help. And what do I mean by that? So they need an IEP, an individual educational plan. That's okay, because that means that your child may learn differently and they are going to need just some support. That's okay. Or they might just need a 504, right? So with that, just make sure that you I want you to be comfortable, getting those resources and seeking out those resources for your children.
Okay, that was wonderful. And that's so funny, Kathi, what you said, because in our intro, Vanetta, you said the exact thing. You said it's important for the teachers to know who you are as well.
You are, right.
Just as important as it is for you to know who the teachers are, the teachers also need to know who you are, because they'll know, okay, this parent is very interested in what's happening with their child. And I hate to say it, but a lot of times if they know that right off the bat, they're probably going to show your child a little bit more attention than they would somebody whose parent didn't come up there and say, hey, I'm Mrs. So-and-so, and this is my number or whatever. I'm interested in you calling me if you need to or whatever. And so Dr. Milliner, the reason I'm gonna call you between Dr. Lynn and Dr. Milliner, but the reason why I'm even doing this show is because of the fact that I ran into you at an event and you recommended this topic. Why did you recommend this topic?
Well, it's actually perfect timing. So summer is gone, right? Kids are getting back into school. And I think parents sometimes, to your point, while we were, chatting before the podcast started, that sometimes they will ship their children off to school and say educating them is your job. Mm-hmm. Well, maybe between the hours of 8 and 3 or whatever time they go to school now, but before they go to school, before they start school, when they come home from school, that's a parent's job. Mm-hmm. Right? So making sure they have all the tools they need, whether it's, a quiet learning environment away from the TV, heaven forbid you take their cell phone away, right? So they can actually learn, but meeting parents and then encouraging parents to form a positive relationship with the school, right? If you don't show up for parent teacher conferences, if you just come in when there's a problem or they have to call you, you all grew up with the, if they had to call your mama to come up to school and see about you, you were in trouble, right? But let's flip the script and say, like, you know what? I understand that your child learns differently. Can we get together? Can we talk about that? Can I educate you on what support services are available? And just like Sora said, you know what? There's no shame in that game, right? Your tax dollars pay for support services for your child. And if your school system can't provide those, you can actually advocate to have your child go to a school system where they can provide what your child needs. So it's all about education. It's all about preparation. And yes, everybody has to get back into school, right? And it's a honeymoon period, but now is the time to go to the teachers, go to the conference and say, hey, is my child doing okay? And I say, ask an open-ended question. Sometimes if you go in there and say, like, I think they have a problem, then the teachers are looking for it, right? Let them get to know your child. Every child goes to a different classroom every year. So it's almost like you start the clock over. And that's not fair to your child, right? It's not fair to the teachers. Let everybody get to know everybody. And then you can just say, like, how are they doing? Do you have concerns? Is there something I should be looking into? Right. So you put the ball in their court. And if they say, yeah, I see a little problem, or I see this is different, listen to them. Don't be defensive. Don't get scared. Right. Hear the information, ask questions, and find out how you can help because at the end of the day, this is all about your child, right? We've all gone to school. We all think, we know how to do it. It's different today, right? But this is all about your child succeeding, right, in a system that's built to help them succeed. We need to help our families and our parents develop the tools to help them do that.
Oh, absolutely. And everything you said speaks to advocacy. And Kathi, to your point, you stated also that you have a gifted child, or I guess they call them gifted or whatever.
Gifted and talented. That's what they used to call them, back in the day, right?
And then you have another child that has ADHD, and that's correct. But even with ADHD, that doesn't mean that they have any lack of intelligence or anything. You can be highly intelligent and have ADHD. So if you want to speak to what Dr. Lynn was saying, and as it relates to what has been your experience with your two children, as far as advocating for them, as well as getting to know their teachers and the experiences that you have faced.
So I think the first thing that I did when my children were young is I joined PTA. And that helped me get to know a lot of the parents too in the building. So I got a chance to meet the administrators, the teachers, as well as the parents and the families, which was very important. My daughter, she was diagnosed late with the ADHD, but I knew something was wrong. And one of the reasons why I wrote the book, Walking in Ava's Shoes, is because I was inspired by her, what she had to deal with and what I observed as a parent, how we treated individuals that learn differently. And not only, and I'm working the schools too. So I have my own business and I'm working in the schools. So I see this happening all the time, how we label our children just because they learn differently. And I wanted to really share that story because she learned differently, but she's super smart. Right. She's a college graduate, she graduated from Howard. She has a great job. She works on Capitol Hill right now, but we had to come up with a plan with the school to help her succeed. And then someone talked about these schools. That's another thing. Parents, our teachers, they work for us. We're paying all the taxes. Okay. So it's okay to go in there. As Dr. Lynn shared, we can be polite and ask open-ended questions, but the teachers are working on behalf of the families and the children in school districts. So we have to get that in our heads. And I think a lot of times parents are uncomfortable, going into the schools. Maybe they had bad experiences when they were growing up or whatever. But I do think that it's just so important that we just go into those schools and we get to know those teachers because they will work with your child. And once I got my daughter situated, she was at a private school, very, very nice private school, I won't mention, but it was not working for her. They weren't helping her for me. And so I just had to go in there And I just said to, my husband, and I didn't tell anyone because then you'll start getting a lot of opinions. I said, you know what, trust me on this. This is not working. We're going to transfer her to another school.
Mhm.
And at her new school, that school has services for her. And they
Okay.
helped her succeed. I mean,
Right.
she didn't like it either, but, and so I just wanted to just talk about the struggles as well as the successes of a child that's dealing with ADD or ADHD, and just kind of move away from the stereotypical, oh, he or she is bad.
Yeah.
They're moving too much. They can't
Now-
sit down.
what I had an opportunity to work in the school districts for a few years, and what I did learn that education is not equal. And what you just said about the parents who are involved in the PTA, the parents who embrace the IEPs and the 504s, the parents, especially the ones who are the visible faces, their children, you'll find they're student of the year. They become captains of the teams. They are highly visible in the yearbook and other things. So that's a discrimination in some ways against parents who don't have that freedom to be in the school district,
Right.
to be in the classroom, to be the room mom. But every mother, I would tell, you need to be on that PTA.
Yeah.
They need to know that you are your child's advocate, because education is not fair. I mean, I know you ladies are in that world, but it just is not an even playing field. And I'll tell you also what I found is the vocabulary. They use a lot of internal words to intimidate parents, especially in urban school districts.
Yeah, I wanted both of you to speak to that, the importance, especially in our Black and Brown communities, about advocacy. Because I remember when my kids were in school, when we would go to open house, the parking lot would be so full that there was nowhere to find to park. And then I had friends who worked in the city of Cleveland and other urban areas, and they would tell me they would be waiting for people to come in on the nights of open houses, and so why is it particularly important for us to get across to our communities that it is so important for us ourselves to advocate for our own children and not put it in the hands of the teachers or the guidance counselors?
Hi, it's Lynn. You bring up a lot of good points, and I want to make sure I make these. I've been to some of those, conference nights, and conference nights are supposed to be, we let you know when they are, our doors are open, but sometimes you have to go beyond that. Not everybody can get to parent teacher night, right? And they do great at presenting like all the nice artwork and reports and put it out. And then you have like 2 minutes to spend with a teacher that your child is entrusted to the education all day long. So that's not fair to the parent. So if you've got stuff you've got to address or question, you don't have enough time to do it. Your point about being educated is very important. Parents need to know what the buzzwords are, right? So Sora said, 504 and IEP and Disability Act and special education. And everybody thinks special education means short bus. It does not, right? So it means services to help you succeed. And I tell parents too, so I'm a healthcare provider, but I do diagnose learning disabilities and ADHD. What I say is, you know what, even if I don't give your child a label, it doesn't remove the fact that your child has an issue. Right. So the diagnosis helps you get the services, but I could just as easily write this child needs, extra time for tests, or they need to be the front of the classroom so they're not distracted by their friend that sits there and talks to them, and they get distracted by looking at a bird flying out of the window. Right. So it's important that you help parents navigate that. Back in the day, there used to be free educational support people, but with COVID and finances, we don't have that. So you could go to the education department and say, I need a parent advocate, and you would get that. And I will tell you, outer ring suburbs, I won't name names, right? But those parents are very savvy about finding out everything that's available to them, right? Whether or not they deserve it or not, right? I've had parents ask for an ADHD diagnosis just so their child has extra time to take an SAT. And they would get that diagnosis, get medication, and I would never see them again. Right? Is that fair or right? Absolutely not. So that's you understanding how to make the system work for you. We're on the lower tier where we don't even know where to go, where to start, what to do, who to ask. right? So we have to start, that's not lowering the bar, but it's just giving information that our parents can process so they can be successful advocates.
And Vanetta, I always talk to you about this. She works Milestones Autism. And I say, parents of autistic children, they seem to be such fierce advocates for their children.
Almost with the diagnosis comes a cape, because they are going to be super moms, super dads, and they're very vocal. They're very in your face. I think as more of an understanding comes from autism, I think the need for that challenging attitude is lessening. But because we're knowing the diagnosis is 1 in 54, so you're standing next to somebody with autism in most cases. But they are great mentors for any parent who's looking to find out how to navigate the educational system. Because as you all said, teachers work for us, but they don't say that in that parent-teacher conference. You don't get that impression, okay? You feel that they're trying to tell you how bad your son is, and he may be, but is there a reason for it? Your goal as a teacher is to find a way to educate them, and they may not focus on that.
And oh, that's a good point. Yeah. And like you said, Kathi, it's important to know your child as well. You have to know your child, and each child is different. I know that I have 2 kids, and they were so different in the educational approach. My son just was the kind of child that really always wanted to do well. He wanted to impress us. He wanted us to be happy. Whereas my daughter did not care about that at all. I mean, if she did something good and we happened to be happy, that was just an extra, but it wasn't anything she was working toward. But they both are successful in their own right, but they got there in different ways. And but I knew my child, if I didn't put her in certain programs outside of school, I knew she was not going to flourish, because she just didn't like school. But she's very smart, but she's the type of student that only likes to do well in stuff that she likes. Whereas my son, he was just like, okay, well, I'll just study and do okay. So it's important to know what your child needs. So even if you have to go outside of school for extracurriculars, then, you just need to do that as well.
But I also think too,
and Pam, I just want to add, go ahead, sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, in our urban districts, we try to stay away from what we call labeling. But what we don't realize is that that may be the key to your child's success. And
in many cases, it is the key.
It is.
The key
and
to
it
your
may
child's
stop
success.
other things, like in disciplinary actions, in front of the courts. I mean, just in money. We have to make the decision that this is okay if it's true.
Yeah.
And I know you have cases where it's not true.
Right. And Dr. Lynn, go ahead and say your point, because we're going to have to wrap up in a minute. This is good.
Sure. I would say 2 things very quickly. So we need to remove the stigma from the label, right? So if label gets you support you need, then let's just go with the label, right? It's not negative. You're not crazy. You're not bad. You're not unintelligent, right? And the other thing is, if you don't ask, you don't get, right? So don't come to someone and say, I need help. We need to focus on getting you the help you need. So yes, you do, but let's get you the right help, the right person, and let's make sure we make it work for you and your child.
And if I could just jump in too quickly, is I think one of the most underutilized websites is the Ohio Department of Education's website. There is so much information out there about pretty much everything a parent needs to know. And then also I wanted to share with parents too, that perhaps they're not comfortable out there advocating. You can actually get someone to help you. Like for me, I remember when my son he was tested gifted, but the teacher basically was labeling him as slow. And so I talked to the guidance counselor, and the guidance counselor was really our advocate. She was the one, she said, Kathi, go ahead and allow, your son to be tested and blah, blah, blah. Well, what he tested gifted, he was off the charts. He was probably just bored to death and he learned differently. I realized he could not really understand the way the teacher was teaching him. He would go from an F to an A in every class. I said he was coming home and he was reteaching himself.
Wow.
So If you don't have a parent, there's someone in that school, in that building, a guidance counselor, the principal, another teacher, another parent, somebody, an after school program provider. Someone else can actually go sit in that IEP, if they're putting together, I don't want to say just an IEP, but just a meeting with those administrators to help you put together a plan for your child.
Kathi, that's so interesting, because I remember growing up, my brother, that was back when they used to actually fail kids. You remember that? But he failed I think the second grade because he stopped doing the work. But then a teacher luckily said, we're going to test him, and then they put him in enrichment and then in major work. But his thing was, he was bored. He knew the work, and I guess he felt like, I'm not even going to do this because this is just too easy. And but luckily there was a teacher who knew that he was very intelligent. And so, that's another thing. So this has just been wonderful, I'm telling you. Now, do either one of you have anything else you want to say just by way of closing? And Kathi, remember, I want people to know about your book. So
okay,
you want to lift it up?
I'll make mine.
Okay.
This is Lynn. I'll make mine short, but please, ask questions, get information. Don't be afraid. Don't be emotional. But we're here to help your child succeed. And whether it's other parents or teachers or guidance counselors or your child's pediatrician, we are here for you, and we'll do whatever we can to make this work. And I'm going to turn it over to Kathi, who's written a book. I'm going to write a book at one day, but today's not that day. So I'm gonna give a shout out. Let's talk about the book.
So I am so excited. Thank you for allowing me to share about my book.
Yes.
So I started writing this book years ago, Walking in Ava's Shoes by Kathi Howard-Primes. And the book is about a little girl and her journey with ADHD. So she's talking about her feelings. She's talking about what's going on, in her mind. She's talking about how people are treating her. So I think the illustrations are beautiful. Of course, I have some sight words in the back because, we want all the students to be great readers. And then I also put some signs to just look for in regards to ADHD. And I also, if I can just throw out, I have my own business and I provide educational support services to school districts. Okay. So with that, in every school in the city of Cleveland, there's pretty much an after school program. Sign your children up for that after school program. They have tutoring, they have fun stuff, they have culinary arts, some of them, it's just so many great programs. And one last program that a lot of families don't know about is called the ACE program. And that pretty much is, there are 100,000 slots here in the state of Ohio. Did you hear what I said? 100,000 slots, and kids can get up to $500. Families, sign up and you can get free tutoring, free mentoring, whatever. And Momentuum is one of those providers, but there are providers from all across the state of Ohio. And
do the families have to meet a certain financial threshold?
They do, but it's not as low as you think. A lot of families will qualify.
All right.
So a lot of times we think, we can't make it, but that's not true. I think it's designed for the working family. So go out there and take a look. Go to that Ohio Department of Education's website. All the great information.
Thank you, ladies, so very much. This has been wonderful, and I hope everybody has learned something from it. I know I have. It's a great discussion. Remember, get out there and advocate for your students. And thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, I enjoyed the both of them, Vanetta. And I learned some things. I didn't know what a 504 is. And you've explained it to me since they were on, but I really learned a lot. And once again, it's so important for people to advocate for your children. You need to, first of all, understand your child, understand what your child's needs are. And you need to make sure that you are there front and center so the teachers will know who you are.
And be honest with yourself. Don't say my child wouldn't do that. I mean, but talk to the teacher before there's a problem. I think that is so important, to let them know that you are going to be there, that you are advocating for them as a teacher. Education is important to you, because they make some assessments about us that may be wrong.
Yeah. That's right. So this was a great show to start the season with, because it's the beginning of a school year, and I really enjoyed our guests. And if you enjoyed them as well, continue to watch our program, because we we always try to have guests on who are informative. We like to have a good time and have some subjects that are fun as well. But I thought this was a very, very good topic. Remember to get the book Walking in Ava's Shoes by Kathi Howard-Primes as well. Until next time, we'll see you for another episode of Public Opinion. Bye-bye.